Hi, I'm Dr. Randy White, and I'm answering a question about the kingdom of God. You see, I believe the kingdom of God is future, is fraternal, and is physical. Now, there's been a challenge to that in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 50. Many come along and say, no, the kingdom of God is not physical. The kingdom of God is not future. It is here and now, and it is spiritual. And they'll quote 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 50, which says this, "Now I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, nor does the perishable inherit the imperishable." Now, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. So the question is, does that prove to us that the kingdom of God is not future and physical, but rather it's here and now, and it's in the spiritual realm, not in the physical realm? This is one of many attacks that come on this position. I'd say, no, that's not what it means at all. It tells us that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. It does not tell us that the kingdom of God does not have a physical nature to it. In fact, I want you to consider, if you would, the fact that Matthew chapter 25, verse 34 speaks to this. Matthew 25 is the story, the instruction that we're given about the coming judgment, the separation, the judgment of the nations, in which the sheep are on one side and the goats are on the left, and the nations of the earth come together in a very physical way. There's nothing spiritual in the nations. They come together in a physical way, and they're separated. And then Matthew chapter 25, verse 34 says, "The king will say to those on his right, 'Come, you who are blessed of the Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world.'" Now, it would seem you'd have a little bit of a contradiction there if you're going to say that the kingdom of God is purely spiritual in its format, because in Matthew 25, you've got real flesh and bones with skin on kind of people who are told, "Come and inherit the kingdom of God prepared for you from the foundation of the world." Now, think about that word inherit. Inherit is to have a stake in, isn't it? It is to have a piece of the action, to own a piece of that. Oh, who can own a piece of that? Well, the kingdom of God, we're told in Romans chapter 14, the kingdom of God is not eating and drinking, but it takes place in a world in which there is eating and drinking. The coming kingdom of God is a spiritual kingdom, and it requires spiritual faculties in order to inherit a piece of that. But there will be many who are living in the kingdom of God who have no peace in it. In fact, you remember how the kingdom of God, it goes for eternity, but at the end of that 1,000 years, the part which we know about the kingdom of God, you know how it ends? The battle of Gog and Magog, you remember, where the devil is released for just a short time and lots of flesh and blood turns up and goes against the living Lord, who's for 1,000 years been reigning on this earth. Shows the deep depravity of the heart of man, doesn't it? Those are flesh and blood living in the kingdom of God, but do they inherit the kingdom of God? No, because it takes more than flesh and blood to inherit the kingdom of God. And what it takes is, John chapter 3, verse 3, you'll not inherit the kingdom of God unless you've been born again. I'm Dr. Randy White, teaching about the kingdom of God.